Good afternoon. Welcome to 30 Frames a Second. I'm your host, Greg Lassiter. We have an amazing show for you today. Plus, it's the primary elections in New York City. Don't go anywhere. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
Thank you. Tonight I want to talk about two things: the politics of education and politics and education. Two distinct and different things. Can you hear me? Okay. First of all, I want to give a little test though. I know you didn't expect to be tested when you came. But when you hear the word inflation, what's the first thing that comes to your mind? I hear a lot of people say money. Now, that's because you've been trained to think that when you hear the word inflation, you automatically think of money. But to inflate means to blow up. Right? Now, that's somebody who's trained. When a trained person hears the word inflate, he thinks of money. An educated person with cross references here's the word inflate, and he thinks about blowing up. So when people go around talking about inflating things, you know they have more than one meaning. Now, to go to another point, an example, Isaac Hayes is a good example of a cat who's been educated and not trained. He took the song, that he sings By the Time I Get to Phoenix. People thought that, everything that could possibly be done to that song had been done, until my man took it and turned it all the way around. He was an educated person. See, a trained person operates on the basis of no cross-references. In other words, you cannot apply cross-references. An educated person can apply cross-references. Now, with this in mind, when we began to look at the type of system that America allows through her education and through her training as a fact, you find out that the whole mobility for cross-references has been limited and almost eliminated as far as black people are concerned and oppressed people in this country. Politics. We have to have a reevaluation of politics. See, we've been taught to think that when the word politics is mentioned, that we're talking about Democratic and Republican Party. That's not the case. See, politics concerns everything that you do. Everything that happens in your life is political. The real question is, whose political end does it serve? If it does not serve your political end, then it is not beneficial for you to be political in that fashion. Now, the problem, again, back to the whole thing of politics, the politics of education in this country. The problem with Negro was not the word itself. It was that a stereotype had been attached to that word Negro, and that people were forced to live in accordance to that stereotype. In other words, Negroes lived in constant fear of being, proven not sufficiently trained. In other words, if you split a verb in front of a blood a few years ago, it was a Negro, you split a verb, and that cat almost died for you. Because what you were doing, you were reflecting that you were not trained. Not educated, that you were not trained. See, and some of the most, so-called intelligent, some of the most educated people in the country are the most unintelligent people in the country. A good example would be Nixon, Johnson, all of these people with college degrees. Now, they have education, they're trained, but they are unintelligent also. So that shows you that the type of education that's given in the country, the type of training, which is really training that's given in the country, has very little to do with the intelligence of a person. Now, students, for an example, you see, you're students either by accident or coincidence. But you're black, and that's a fact. You're oppressed, and that's a fact. And to deal with the reality of that oppression, you must begin to look at your situation as students, secondary, and as being oppressed first. And the skills that you acquire as a result of being education, how can we utilize those skills to eliminate that oppression? That becomes the question for students. again, when you begin to understand the whole system of education in this country, see, whatever you don't control can be used as a weapon against you. Anything that you don't control can be used as a weapon against you. Education has been used as a weapon against black people because black people have been trained to think a certain way. See, we do not control politics, so politics as it's known in this country is a weapon against black people. And when we begin to examine what politics is, we find out it's no more than the apex of white cultural aggression. Nothing more. When a man tells you that you can only become free through voting, then he is restricting your mobility. He's restricting your freedom. You were born free. You must exercise your rights to be free. That man cannot give you freedom. But when he restricts an individual and tells him that he can only become free by voting, then he has denied you your freedoms. He says this is politics. The only way you can become free is by being political in the white sense, or in the sense of this country. But politics in this country, you see, the whole thing refers again back to what Camus once raised. He says, what better way to enslave a man than give him the vote and call him free? Does black people absolutely no good to be able to vote unless we can choose who we're voting for? Then when it goes down and you begin to dwell and look further into the political system of this country, you find out that there is no political party that's anti-property. So where do we fit in? Whether that property is us, or whether that property is land, or whether that property is a Cadillac, or whether that property is a credit card. No party in this country is anti-private property, anti-gain, personal gain. No party. So where does black people and oppressed people fit in into a political system like that? That tells us that we must begin to reevaluate the whole connotation that's been given to politics in this country. Politics does not mean the Republican and Democratic Party. Politics does not mean city and state government. Politics goes into something much further beyond that. Politics goes into what happens to your life every day. You see, it's a political decision that most black people in Harlem are junkies. That's a political decision. It's a political decision that black people were forced to be athletes. That's a political decision. It's a political decision that black people cannot occupy offices, or high offices in this country as they are called. That's a political decision. But note here, not that, that would make any difference in terms of the whole thing of black people occupying offices. Because when you begin to understand the type of system that operates in this country, then you understand that it's not the individual who manipulates the system. It's the system who manipulates that individual. See, if Cleaver or Dick Gregory had become president in this country, it would make absolutely no difference. Because America would still be in the war in Vietnam. Because the country operates off what's known as the military-industrial complex, which says that war is profitable. Which says that USS Steel must make steel for tanks, because over 70% of the people employed in this country are either directly or indirectly employed by the military. That's the politics of the economy of this country. When oppressed people begin to evaluate politics, we must understand that we have to create a politics that's relevant to us. We must create a politics that's relevant to our lifestyle. We must create a politics that's relevant to what we do every day. So when we talk about politics, when we talk about the political reality of the black community, we are talking about something that's beyond Democratic and Republican Party. And in that sense, we must understand that we must incorporate a revolutionary ideology that pushes this type of political know-how and political knowledge in the black community.
Nat Wood.
Not adjust your television set. You are fortunate enough to have tuned in to 30 frames a second.
You have spun that into the fact where the victim is now the perpetrator and the perpetrator is now the victim. And that just drives me crazy.
Hi, welcome back to 30 Frames a Second. Don't adjust your television. Yes, we're black and we're back. I'm here with the creator of 30 Frames a Second, Nat Wood. That was, welcome to your own show.
My brother, how you doing?
Good, great.
Yeah.
It's great to be back. Nat, that was a great clip because when you were shooting that clip with H.Rap Brown and the editing, everything he said corresponded to the clip that came up. It was brilliant, brilliantly done. But with that said, before I get to the primaries, what's happening in New York City.
And that was perfect for what was
going on today, right.
Because he said a lot of things that was really, really
prevalent today. Right. So New York City, well, all over the country, we've been having statues taken down because they were offended, racist, and things like that. I don't know if you guys know, we live in New York City, and on 104th and 5th, what's his name? Dr. Sims, Mims. J. Marion Sims. Yeah. Mims, I'm sorry, J. Marion Mims. Sims or Mims? One of them. Sims. They painted him as this great philanthropist that did a lot in the 1800s, and actually, he was a slave. He bought slave women. He was a doctor who bought. He was a gynecologist who bought.
Correct. And just to piss y'all off a little bit, because just like the hurricane, every now and then we invite white people to the party. He started his experiments on unanesthetized African slaves, but he also brought in indentured Irish women later on into the equation.
That's right.
So white people, he tortured the hell out of your women too, But y'all didn't care much about the Irish at that time. But it was so horrible that white people started complaining about his House of Horrors. Right. So you can imagine if white people is complaining that you torturing the black slaves. Right.
It must have been pretty bad. Must have been pretty bad. Pretty bad. But here's the thing too. As I've been in New York City for in excess of 25 years. Right. And all the statues around New York City seems to be about people that did horrible, horrible stuff. Right. To African Americans. They just did horrible stuff in America. And to Americans, period. But more so African Americans, where, seriously. Right. Why? I'm looking around. Yeah, I'm looking around too. But I'm sitting here thinking that there's so many statues in America that offends African Americans. Right. That now all of a sudden people want to take them down. Well, what led? I guess because of Donald Trump, is what led this movement.
It's a movement that's overdue. One of the yes. That's answer, right? But it's not because Donald Trump offended black people. Actually, what led to this movement had more to do with Freddie Gray, and Ferguson, and the advent of Black Lives Matter, and Eric Garner, and on and on and on and on and on. So this movement had been building literally ever since Stop and Frisk had started to claim more and more and more bodies. Right. It is an internet movement almost, because the internet is our main vehicle of communication these days.
That's correct.
White folks have taken over every single other means of communicating, and the only thing that's left is the internet. And the efficacy of the internet is unbelievable because it's
Right.
not like one little radio station,
Right.
then another, then another,
Right.
then another, and
Masses.
dragging and pulling. Right. The people themselves is the freedom train.
Right. So,
You know.
but you know, people don't know. Stop and frisk. It's a New York thing. It's an American thing.
actually,
It's an American thing. But it was prevalent in New York City more so than anywhere because
we gave a name
Right.
to it and a sense of fervor
Right.
to it.
Right.
Actually, stop and frisk, even stop and frisk is not something that simply happened.
Right.
Stop and frisk is the byproduct of the militarization of police forces all over America.
That's correct.
The federal government has been militarizing police forces.
Right.
Excuse me. And in order to qualify for certain things, you need a quota system. You
Right.
have to produce numbers. And in order to
Contact.
produce numbers, it literally gave the okay to arresting masses of people that they had no love for anyway.
right.
So it became legal to do anything you wanted to black people, especially young black males.
Especially in New York, when we gave a name to stop and frisk, it was
Right.
based on Giuliani's. I think it was Giuliani's.
Oh, yeah.
Giuliani's broken window theory.
Which is ridiculous.
Well, tell him, explain. I will tell him you can explain it better than I am about broken window. The
Broken
window.
windows is a lie that they told, and they used the squeegee man like he was Al Capone.
Right.
And people selling incense outside
Right.
and all sorts of stuff like that to justify literally harassing, searching,
Right.
and if necessary, abusing, and that might lead to the death of poor black people.
That's right.
So they didn't just come down on. I mean, it wasn't just breaking a window,
Right.
or peeing between two cars when
Right.
you're drunk.
Or drinking.
White
Right.
boys can still drink, pee between the cars,
Right, and don't
drink
get arrested.
wine, and they're not getting arrested.
Right.
I'm from the East Village.
Right,
I mean,
right.
when they open up an art gallery, everybody got beer bottles and
Wine.
reefer and everything else. Police just drive on
Right,
by.
that's
They
right.
never even bother them. But not only was it those things, but they started coming down on anyone who played music in the street.
Right.
I mean, just any excuse that they had for stopping and frisking and being quite violent
Right.
and disrespectful against black people. They use and it
But you-
posted their numbers.
But you know what? I ran into an incident, particularly, I witnessed an incident. Second Avenue Festival a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
Well, Second Avenue Festival is for they closed down. Every street has a festival, the same
Right,
festival.
right.
Where vendors, they close the whole street down, and you can sell your wares and you can walk and there's no traffic.
Right.
Now, supposedly, that was supposed to be, this is what I hear, for the people that live in that community, and that they have the right, whoever got they have the right. I heard, because I was trying to explain to people that you can go anywhere you want.
They want you to go. They selling crap.
That's right. But
right.
apparently a politician tried to say it was for
an ass.
it was for them.
He's an ass.
Yeah, it's supposed to
He's
dude.
an ass.
Anybody
I
can
know
walk.
the politician you're talking
Who?
about, but that's he's running for council in Harlem. I
Yes,
think.
yes, that guy. And I said,
But
dude,
I shouldn't say that because it's primary day, and I don't want to take time. But I don't actually vote in Harlem, so it doesn't
I neither
really
do I
matter.
vote on a piece. Right.
But it's up to Harlem to decide.
But that's crazy though.
stupid.
That is
That's
crazy.
stupid.
You should be able to go anywhere.
New York is a tourist town.
That's exactly right.
They want people to come who don't speak English,
Right.
who speak Swedish, and have a lot
Sprechen Sie
of
Deutsch?
Right. That's right.
Commentez-vous, s'il vous plaît?
That's right. Buy a falafel,
Right.
put their
Right.
rubles on the table, buy a falafel, enjoy themselves,
Right.
let their children play. This is a money town, a tourist town.
Right.
I've covered the Second Avenue Festival
So have I. I
for
lived
quite
there.
a few years.
I lived there.
When Tony was here, he had
Right.
me going out covering
Right.
every damn festival in Manhattan.
Right.
So that was just. I think he needed something to separate himself from the herd and pick something goofy.
He will lose.
But that was goofy.
Yeah, he would lose.
That's goofy.
But Nat, let me segue back before we get to the election. I want to finish the statue thing. I want to know if you, not just you, I want to know if our viewers find this offensive. A statue of a Buffalo Soldier.
Listen, I think that a Buffalo Soldier is an appropriate statue. I think that it's a good statue. It's good for America. America can't get over its crap. It can't move on. The moment America starts recognizing the contributions of all Americans,
right,
and conduct themselves as it says it wants to be known, it would be better for the planet. Unfortunately, America wants everyone to believe that it is this welcoming place.
Which it's not.
And it's not. Right. It's one of the most hate-filled, racist, and I'm not talking about the people, because a lot of times the people get their cues from the system itself.
That's right. That's right.
Not the reverse.
That's right. But on a Buffalo Soldier, you know what they specialize? This is devil's advocate here.
You're talking about the coin, or
no, I'm talking about the actual statue. Because the Buffalo statue.
I'm not talking.
Okay, you're talking about the coin. Okay, no, the little
black soldier with the afros.
But I'm talking about the statue that they have.
I'm talking about that.
Because they were specialized in killing the Native Americans. Did you know that?
I wouldn't be surprised.
You know,
but that's not. But that's not a black people thing.
No, there was a white person. It was a system thing.
Correct.
It was a system thing.
And it brings us to Ben Carson. It brings us.
Clarence Thomas.
It brings us to those Negroes who want to fit in so badly that they get their calling cues from the system.
Right.
And
that's
literally,
exactly right.
They will do anything to get those few pennies and whatnot, including.
But do you think they're selling out black people? But do you honestly believe that for them, is it about money or is it about acceptance from the system?
More acceptance. More acceptance for white daddy. And it's not just, you only needed the white colonialists, and I'm good we played H.Rap Brown, because he talked about a lot of things. And Columbus Day is coming up.
Which is bizarre.
Y'all really hating Columbus Day.
Columbus really didn't discover America. He was lost.
No, what Columbus discovered was that his pee-pee was burning. But that's another story.
Okay.
You only needed a couple of Haitians. You only needed a couple of well-placed people all throughout the Caribbean for the Monroe Doctrine to colonize all of the Caribbean.
Right, that's right.
You only needed a handful of Africans in order to create havoc and murder all over through Africa. You just need a couple of people who will be down with you, give them all the weapons and all the guns in the world, and give them control of all the other people. A lot of people think that the thing between the Tutsis and the Hutus is some sort of civil war thing.
No,
that's
it's not.
not.
No,
that's
it wasn't.
not.
Right.
The Tutsis were a small minority who were empowered by white European colonizers to literally rule over all of the Africans.
Right, that's right. That's exactly right. And a lot of people don't know that.
A lot of people don't know that. And that's where the animus came. When the Hutus finally got the vote, there were so many of them They completely voted out that power structure of the Tutsis, and people who are used to having power don't like to be voted out, so they came with a beef, and the Hutus already hated their ass, you know, so it became a bloody carnage.
But so let's talk about the people that are set in place, like Ben Carson, who's a brain surgeon, Clarence Thomas, who's one of the most powerful black men in America. But see, here's the point. They've arrived at those positions.
Right.
So how they got there, let's say it's irrelevant. They're there. So why do they think they need to keep having acceptance from the white man?
The problem is not them. The problem is us. And I'm glad today is primary day.
Right.
Because one of the things that H.Rap Brown said that I disagree with is that the vote doesn't matter until you know who you're voting for.
Right. I don't agree with that.
I say the vote doesn't matter until you know what you're voting for.
I agree with you on that.
The who is irrelevant.
Right.
You have to know what your agenda is, what your goals is, what all of the parties bring to the equation, what they're going to do that benefits you, what they're going to do that's detrimental to you, and prepare for every contingency.
That's right. Exactly.
You have to vote for your family and your community, not for whoever they prop up to say, vote for me, I'll set you free.
Right, because now the primaries are very, very important in New York City. Like East Harlem, you got the Rodriguezes. You got Robert Rodriguez, who's running he was assemblyman running for city council. You got Kelmy Rodriguez, who's running for the district leader. You got, what's the guy's name? Ben, I can't think of the other guy who's running against him. But they're all Puerto Ricans. They're all Puerto Ricans. And I simply set them down and said, guys, everybody, they're opposing each other. It's like, why can't you all take back Spanish Harlem together? Instead of separating, districts, why don't you guys sit down? And I tried to get them all to the table and say, listen, instead of having you guys are the outside forces are dividing and conquer.
The Latino community, and they're not as challenged as the black community. Because one of the things about the DREAM Act is that the dreamers, I like to say the problem with the dreamers is not that they're criminal or underachievers. The problem is that they're overachievers. Like in Charlottesville, you will not replace us. They are terrified that this group, over 90% of which are either in school or working, are a legitimate threat to the economic power structure, especially since America is going through a suicidal Dauphine white boy phase.
Because it really is. And that's you're right, Nate. They're threatened. The system is threatened by because the Latinos are so overachievers that it's not about
the young ones are coming home.
It's not about them taking jobs. Because the jobs, it's about they're making America, they're living the dream.
And make no mistake about it. I don't care nothing about how many Latinos come. I don't care how many blacks come. I don't care how many Asians come. If white males are qualified for the jobs, they're going to get the jobs
either way.
99% of the time.
That's correct. The
reason why white males are worried is because they are not qualified to exist in the 21st century.
That's one of the reasons. That's one of the reasons.
They're not ready for it.
Secondly, they're going through that phase that all minorities went through in the 70s with the drugs. They're going through that phase where they put the drugs in our community. Now we didn't put the drugs in their community. They put the drugs in their own community.
White boys have always been
dope fiends. Right. But now
they drive up the whole market. I mean, they'll come and buy all the dope in the community. The dope dealers didn't even leave their house. They just sit there waiting on the white boy to come.
That's very true. That's very true. That's very true.
The difference is one of the biggest things that fueled the economics of white boys was the fact that they could get any job they wanted
right.
and just needed to write down white boy on the resume
It's true.
and get the job.
But now
that don't work.
No, it doesn't. It's
you gotta know you gotta.
But did you know
with the robot and
that's
the
right.
computer,
Right.
Not just the Mexican. You can't compete with the robot.
The college statistics say that Caucasians
Right.
Entering college is lower.
Right.
You know,
Right.
so what does that mean? They're going through that.
Right.
They're going through the stage that minorities have gone through. Minorities are beginning to excel, and the Caucasian is beginning to get into the drugs. Vermont, New Hampshire, all those are the highest. And when it comes to heroin in the country, and then you got the Midwest with that kid with the what is that drug?
That's right.
The drug that's made fentanyl and
that's the super dope. That's the dope where you can like just shoot an elephant up with it and clip his testicles off and they won't budge. I mean, like, what you doing? What you doing?
You're not right, dude. You're so not right.
But that's what I told you. White boys is dope fiends.
Yeah.
They're not like, you know, like.
Now because it's an epidemic.
Dope,
right.
Dope
I need more.
Dope.
But you know what? It's becoming, see, it's always been an epidemic in the minority community. And I'm not just saying the black community. It was an epidemic in the Hispanic community as well as the black community. But now it's a real epidemic in the country for the Caucasian.
I said it before. Drugs does not become a problem
until
you run out of money. As long as you got money,
there's not an issue.
It's a damn
right.
When you finally run out of money, and wake up and you sleeping on the rooftop somewhere,
you don't know how you got there.
Know, how you gonna get high?
Yeah.
You know,
that's a problem.
You sick, especially heroin.
Right,
heroin make you sick.
Right.
You know, coke and crack make you nervous.
Right.
Heroin make you sick.
They make you nervous.
You know, so you're right. Nervous and horny. You know, but heroin makes you physically sick.
Right. Your body needs it.
Run out of money, you in a pickle.
Yeah.
You in a pickle. And it was all fun and games when they was living with moms and getting the prescriptions and mixing that up with the dope and you know and hanging out with the little teenage girls and they get high and
it's fun and games until you're broke.
But that's right. And it doesn't take a heroin addiction long before you go from young teenager partying all night to old ass dope fiend
with no money,
with arms that look like the arms in that video.
Right. You know, that's crazy.
Abscesses and it doesn't take long.
But now
and it's hard to come back.
Now that America is at a very pivotal point right now.
Yeah.
And it can go either way.
No, it's got to change.
It has to change, but
got to change.
But how? But how do you see it changing? Pretty much.
They got to change their ways. Dylan Roof can shoot up all the churches he want to, yell and scream about raping white women all he want to, but there's no place for Dylan Roof in the modern world.
Right. Because he's uneducated.
That's right.
He's uneducated. He has no skills.
That's right.
He has nothing.
Right. And the problem with the heroin epidemic is that it is taken a lot of young white males. And you have to remember that America itself is an aging country.
Right, that's right.
So you have the youth, especially white youth, who are killing themselves, highest rate of suicide.
That's right.
Drug addiction all over the country. You have an aging workforce. You need to replace that workforce with a young, smart,
educated,
educated workforce from somewhere. So they can scream, yell, Trump can promise them the sun, the moon, and the sky, but we need people who can get the job done because the world has changed.
And that's the scary part, because the minorities are beginning to, well, we've always excelled. We're talking about, look at the Indians that are in America, not the native Indians, just the Indians, Eastern Indians, that they excel in math, science, you know, African Americans, doctors, lawyers, you know.
Again, we are going to have to leave them to their squalor.
Like they left the poor black people.
There's nothing that white folks that makes. If you think white folks get nervous and antsy when you move in, you should see them when you move out. They really go crazy. First of all, they really believe in their heart of hearts that you are their property.
Right.
And anything you do that disabuses them of that notion gives them the heebie-jeebies.
But you know, Donald, this is my prediction for the Trump regime. Mueller is just waiting. Mueller, he's just waiting. He's going to wait. This is going to drag out to the end of the year. He's going to let Donald Trump be in there a year, and it's all going to come to a head. Look what happened to Nixon. Nixon retired. Nixon had to resign. Donald Trump is going to resign. His son's going to be indicted.
Yeah, the White House lawyers have already pretty much come out and made the statement that Donald Trump's son is son-in-law.
Son-in-law,
Jared is a liability.
Right.
Whatever Donald Trump does or does not do is not my primary concern.
Right.
My primary concern is making sure that my team lives up to the potential that it has. A lot of people talk about like escaping the hood. I never.
Why do you want to escape the hood? You can change the hood.
But the hood I came from was full of geniuses.
Right.
Why would I want to escape that legacy? I have to prove myself worthy of that legacy. So my primary concern is not Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump is lying to his own people.
Right.
Nothing can save
himself.
their ass.
Right.
Their ship is sinking, whether they like it or not. Now, there are systemic things in play that make what we have to do more difficult.
Right.
But c'est la guerre.
Now, what's gonna be the outcome? De Blasio is on his way out.
Well, I won't say who I voted for.
You live in the Lower East Side. You live on the Lower East Side.
In my district, there was only two people, two things you could vote for. That was the mayor and city council.
Right.
So I was literally in and out.
Right.
I will say this. I won't say who I voted for, but I did indeed vote for two women. One was a Puerto Rican,
we already
the
know.
other was black.
We already knew you voted for.
So you can figure it out.
Right. I predict that the new mayor will be a Republican. The Republican, Nikki.
I'm not going to make any predictions. Again, like I said, our problem has been that we vote for people
instead
of voting our interests and being prepared for whoever comes in. So no matter who comes in, it might change the way I conduct business.
Right, but it won't.
It will not crush my team.
Now, I strongly believe in voting. Do you strongly believe in voting?
Yeah.
See, all you people that don't vote, you're voting for the person that's doing nothing for the community.
Because one of the things that we have going today is total confusion and misrepresentation within the African American activist community.
Right.
And they like to break it down to some sort of disagreement that may or may not have existed between Malcolm and Martin.
Right.
Well, during this civil rights era, it wasn't just Malcolm and Martin.
No.
Every single activist was different and had a different approach and a different way of doing things.
Adam Clayton Powell.
Adam Clayton Powell was different from Martin. He was different from Malcolm.
Right.
Medgar Evers was different from all three of them. Ella Baker was different from all of them.
Right.
H.Rap Brown was different. Jamil Alamin was different from all of them. Stokely Carmichael was different. But they all had one focused agenda. They didn't get in anybody's way, each other's way. They actually complemented each other.
Right, that's right.
When people try to tell you that something doesn't matter, listen to me good.
Right, that's
Everything matters.
Everything matters. That's right. That's right.
You want to know the biggest voting bloc in American history? People who don't vote.
That's exactly right.
They control more of the outcome of what will or will not be your fate, your curse, than anyone else in the world.
That's correct.
So as soon as we get back to who we are and stop bitching and moaning, and start focusing on what we have to do, in spite of whether or not we think this outcome or that outcome will be, because life don't guarantee you nothing. If you're looking for a damn guarantee, you shouldn't be here.
That's correct.
You should be off with the women.
That's right. Now, so that goes back to this. We have to first, as a community, take care of our children, our family.
That is correct.
That's first.
Correct.
You can't help anybody else until you do that.
That is correct.
That
is correct. That is correct. One of the problems is that we, and we talk about young people a lot, and they say some of the things. There's this young rapper, used to be a stripper. Her lyrics are atrocious. She makes reference to, I'm not going to mention her name, but she makes reference to her years as a member of the Bloods gang, yada. There's two things that's in play here, because there was a big argument back and forth about whether or not she was a good person or a bad person. Old people would like leave young people alone, let them make their money. Others was like, this is terrible. This is the truth of the matter. She was abandoned by my generation. She knows no other life because we have afforded her no opportunities to know a different way. Every single time I try to tell young people that there is a way to strive towards something, I get resistance from someone else giving me a whole lot of excuses about why they do this and why they don't.
That's correct.
I don't want to hear that. We don't do excuses. We have a focused goal. If you're not going to help us achieve that goal,
get out of the way.
What purpose do you serve me?
Because if you're not you're not part, not to cut you off, if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem.
You are the problem.
You are the problem.
You are
That's
the
right.
problem.
That's right.
And the problem is twofold. I have a generation of generation that has no direction. I don't need anyone stepping in the way of me trying to offer direction. So they are not my problem. You are my problem. Are you going to help me change this thing? Or are you going to give me a whole bunch of reasons why it doesn't work? Because if that's all you're going to do,
what's the purpose of this? But the young, though, Nat, the young, what do we tell the young? Because that's the future.
Whatever we are telling our young is apparently not what parents who came here illegally and told their dreamers. Because, like I said, the dreamers, most of them are pretty much the same shades that we are, come from the same colonized places that we come from. The islands are colonized. But for some reason, for some inescapable reason, 90% of them are either in school or working.
Right. Achieving.
They're achieving. They're getting degrees in science and math. They're becoming engineers. They're all in the military, and they are making their communities stronger and stronger and stronger, which is why they are a problem.
Right.
Which is why the system is coming against them. The system will come against you, irrespective of what you do. You have to choose, do you want the system to come against you because you are doing something for yourself and your community, or because you ain't no damn good and your community is better off without you?
Right.
You have to decide. We have to decide. Are we going to give up on our next generation, or are we going to empower our next generation?
Right.
That is our decision. That's not their decision.
Right.
That's ours.
But what happens to the 800,000 dreamers that are in jeopardy right now?
America is screwed. White America is screwed. Like I said, this is an aging country with an aging workforce. Most of the people that Donald Trump is addressing are people who are literally day workers. You don't need them.
Right.
You have countries all over the world to make your radios and make your shoes.
Right, right,
You don't really need them. And brick and mortar businesses are going the way of the dinosaur.
That's exactly right, because we can get everything on the internet.
Sooner or later, they're going to have one of two choices. They think that they can mine coal to the year 3030. They're wrong.
Right.
They're wrong.
It's not going to happen, right?
They're wrong. They think that the world owes them something. They keep forgetting that they come from feudal systems.
Right.
They weren't worth crap to anybody a hot minute ago,
Right.
and they ain't worth crap to anybody anymore, and they're going to have to apply themselves and compete like everyone else. They have an advantage. Their white skins mean that if we're both equally qualified, you're
still win.
Get it.
Yeah, you'll still win.
Your problem is that you aren't qualified at all.
And then that's not someone taking your job. It's because you don't keep up with them. Yeah, you're not keeping up technology.
You're not qualified. I know one of two things. I know that there's a whole lot of people that I can outthink, but there's a hell of a lot more that I can out hustle.
Right. Because we're made to hustle.
You don't put your back in.
Right. We made to hustle. Right. We're not privileged.
Right. You can't compete with me because you don't put your back into it.
Right.
You know, I already assume that everybody and everything is coming at me.
Right.
I'm gonna make sure that when you replace me, it's gonna cost you 20 people and $500,000 to duplicate what I can do by myself.
That's correct. That's correct.
Make you sweat.
You heard it here first. You heard it here first. So,
and that's a promise. That's a guarantee.
So we got a few more minutes. We're going to be off the air until October 10th.
We'll be rolling stuff. They're closing the studio facility down. There's some stuff that will be done from 104th Street.
Okay.
But you and I won't be back together
until October 10th. Right. You'll still see us. Guys,
you know why I can't wait till
because of Columbus Day. Christopher Columbus Day. Right.
Yeah.
Guys, remember, if you all want to get in touch with us, we'll have a website up soon.
Yeah.
But you can find us on social media, and you can reach out to Natwood and me. Yeah. But you can have the last word.
Well, we still got 10 minutes.
About 9 minutes. Okay, 7 minutes. Okay.
8 minutes. Again, like I said, I voted for.
We know you do. One was African American, one's a Puerto Rican.
So you can put the pieces together all you want to. Especially in that I've already told you I didn't vote for any Italian.
Right. Or any Asians, because there's an Asian, right?
Right.
But
I only had two races. And the Asian that was no,
that's right. That's right. See,
I didn't vote for that one. Sorry, dude. And the Latino guy, I didn't vote for.
But there's in the primaries, there's a lot of people that are on the ballot this week, this month, this time. A lot of Latinos.
They all, that's true. That's true. That's
More Latinos than African Americans.
The race in my neck of the woods is more. It'll tell me how gentrified the voting base is, because you have a very well prepared Latina,
right,
who comes from that activist community that I
right.
I am still so close to.
Right.
And a Jewish woman with a whole lot of money who says, "Vote for me."
On the Upper East Side.
I'm mom.
Right.
Well,
Yeah,
no,
Lower East Side, right.
She does a lot of television commercials. So what we will find out after the primary, because I'm more than certain that it will be a Democrat who ultimately wins on November 7th.
Right.
But after the primaries, we will find out how gentrified that community, my community, is in terms of people who vote. One of the things I found out is this new breed of white folks, this young hipster type white folks that inhabit my
your community.
My community don't really vote.
No, they don't care.
You know,
they don't care.
So we'll see if she can muster her troops in the same way that
the race to watch, though.
Puerto Ricans can muster their troops because they come out.
The race to watch right now that could go either way is the Harlem race. Harlem has become the East Harlem and Harlem overall. That race has become a Latino race. It's a very few.
Not in the city council.
The city council, but you look at Rodriguez. He's already assemblyman. Who's going to take over that? They redistricted East Harlem.
They redistricted that whole community. The interesting thing is that the Latinos actually are equal to the whites and the blacks combined now.
Right.
Harlem now is only, by their numbers, 25% black, 25% white, 50% Latino.
Right. We're talking overall Harlem.
That's their numbers.
Right. Okay.
That's their numbers. That's not what I see when I go there.
That's not what I see either. Right.
It doesn't look like that.
Right.
But that's their numbers.
Right.
At least that's their numbers in terms of voting bloc.
Right.
One thing is certain that Latinos are far more sophisticated in terms of supporting their community structure than the African
they're
community.
a lot more loyal.
Correct.
That's what I never understood. How come the Latinos are more loyal to the Latinos and the African Americans are much more loyal to them?
See,
to
that's
us?
very interesting. That's very interesting. And I could speculate. There's a whole lot of speculation I would do as to why we just need white daddy so much.
We don't. We don't.
Because white daddy is an abusive daddy. You know, he has not been kind. He has not been loving. And I don't know why a lot of us are so fixated on
Acceptance.
And rejection of self.
Right.
It's not just acceptance. The desire to get white daddy's approval is secondary to the desire to disown other black people.
Right.
We said this before. We have a generation that is very, 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 very comfortable in calling themselves
the N-words. Yeah, I never understood that.
But will fight you if you call them either black or African.
Right.
That is weird.
That's a little disturbing. It's disturbing.
That is weird. But this is what we're confronting now.
Right.
And we're gonna need a whole overhaul.
If we don't do something now, we're lost. Because we've lost 3 generations already.
Well, we're coming up on the third.
Third generation. We're at the end of it. We're in the end of it.
I think that this third generation is disgusted with the last 2.
But the third generation is not doing anything to better themselves at all.
I don't think this will be solved. I don't think we can have recruit and infantry approach.
Right.
I think that we're going to have to take things in small sections and totally rebuild.
Right.
I think we are in a state of total chaos.
Right.
And we're going to have to do this step by step, bit by bit, piece by piece.
Right.
That when you talk about black people are going to have to do this, you are obviously not involved in doing anything, because that's not going to happen.
Right.
There are pockets of young people who are desperately seeking some sort of guidance, some sort of direction, some sort of mentorship.
Right. Right.
Deal with those.
Right.
The problem is you want to be Moses. you don't want to be you want to be Jesus. You don't want to be Joseph.
Right. You want to lead.
Right.
You want to part the waters.
Right. You want to be the one who makes history. You want to be Jesus.
Right. But it's for you. That's a selfish thing. It's not to help the community.
Correct.
Right.
It's time for you to be Joseph.
Right.
When they were having the and we're almost out of time. But when they were covering the hurricane,
right.
Irma,
right,
it was obvious that they were not concerned with the people in the hurricane.
Nope.
They were concerned with ratings.
Right.
You had all sorts of reporters out in the hurricane trying to scrounge ratings and fame, and no one is concentrating
What's
on
his
the
name?
people.
The guy living in my community. Al Roker. Yeah.
Al Roker. Arthritis ass, hip replacement ass, out in the hurricane,
right.
trying to scrounge some. No wonder Tamron Hall told him to kiss her ass.
Guys, listen, we're out of time. All right, guys, thanks for watching. You know how to get a hold of us. Remember this. You can have last words. Shoot for the moon. If you miss, you're still among the stars. I'm Greg Lassiter. Out.
This ain't over. Not by a long shot. Anybody who told you that it's over lied to you. I have a lot of faith in those who come through me. I don't know how much faith you have in those who come through you. Peace. We'll see you in 2 weeks.
There you go.
3 weeks.
3 weeks.
Columbus Day. Columbus Day. We got some colonizers to deal with. Excellent. They back there monkeying around with.
But I see that. I see that.
Yeah. This. There you go. There you go. Thank you, brother.
Thank you, brother.
I can't wait till Columbus Day.
It's gonna be interesting. I can't wait to see your intro.
We're gonna open. The kid gloves are off. I've been worried.